The agenda is sponsored by Newcastle County Government.
On a trip to your local grocery store, you may have noticed some of your favorite items missing from the shelves. Frozen chicken, bread, paper products. The inventory of every grocery, pharmacy, and department store passes through an intricate chain of manufacturing and logistics. When one section of the chain lags, the entire system crumbles. Hi, I'm Kerwin Gaines, and welcome to The Agenda. The chaos and unpredictability of COVID-19 pandemic has exposed critical weaknesses in our global economy. The vast and interconnected global marketplace faced unprecedented shutdowns and shortages, forcing global companies to recontextualize their relationships with their international partners and us, the consumers. The initial spread of COVID-19 sent shockwaves and paranoia and distrust between global superpowers and their respective centers of industry. The widespread shortages of critical medical supplies and the US-China trade war have heightened sentiments of economic nationalism. Domestically, this issue just doesn't affect the materials being used to make things. The human labor market is in the midst of its greatest crisis. In May of 2021, there were 8.3 million job openings nationally, the highest ever recorded. I'm sure that you at home have noticed low wait staffs at restaurants, or having to book an oil change days or even weeks in advance. People just aren't enticed to give up unemployment benefits for low-wage jobs. How does this affect us in Delaware? Well, if you care about your snacks at Wawa or having enough servers at your local restaurant, then this affects you on a daily basis. Now we're going to sit down with Michael Quaranta, the president of the Delaware Chamber of Commerce, to dig in a little deeper. You have a responsibility at the Chamber of Commerce that, you have your finger on the pulse of most of the businesses here in Delaware, if not all the businesses in Delaware, at least what's coming down the pipe. What is going on with staffing? How are businesses reacting to it? It's a serious issue. What are your thoughts?
Thanks, Kerwin. So it is the question of the day. There are 57,000 licensed businesses in the state. A percentage of those are members of the State Chamber of Commerce, and we represent all of them, and they are a bit of every industry you can imagine: healthcare, agriculture, legal services, professional services, hospitality, everything. They're all in a struggle to find talent. That is the issue. We're going through, and it's not just a Delaware problem, it's a national problem. We're going through this great sorting out right now, and I think it's probably going to take place over several years, where, employers are struggling to find people because there's a talent mismatch. The skills that people have are different than the skills that employers need.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about that. What do you mean?
So what we know is disruptions in technology that happen anywhere in the world, now can be discovered locally within the same day or maybe later that week. And so that creates challenges, especially for tasks that are probably less skilled. And so those are the first things that get automated out of existence. Take a look at, if you went into a convenience store, how you order a sandwich, how you might pay for a sandwich, all with electronic payments and maybe or doing your ordering on a screen. So, there goes a couple of jobs, right? So there's a lot of downward pressure on people that don't have marketable skills. And so we know we need more people in healthcare. We are the 7th oldest state in the union. We know we need people with technology skills. Look at how kids all went to school last year virtually. Look at how meetings have been held through, different virtual platforms. We need people in the building trades. The state is about to spend $1 billion or more in federal dollars and doing a lot of construction projects. But we spent 40 years telling everybody to go to college. We accumulated $1.5 trillion of student loan debt. and we don't have enough carpenters, plumbers, HVAC, welders, etc.
So do you think, while we're on that part of it, do you think that it's those issues that's stopping companies like Lidl in Newark that's going to push back development for a year, Hobby Lobby is going to push back in development for a year? Do you think that plays a role into that?
Absolutely, because we've got employers, Kerwin, who they've had 50 open job specs for months, and they might get 15 applicants that come through the door. 5 people actually show up, they hire 3, and 2 stay.
So legislatively, is there something that we can do about that? I mean, to me, I think we're seeing the output. We're seeing the output of the assistance that was given through unemployment. But we're not seeing the amount of people who actually needed that, right? And now they're at a place in their life where they can make an honest choice. Is this what I want to go back to? I understand that there's requisitions that are open and people don't want to go back to those jobs and the employers are going crazy, but is there anything to the people that have to work those low-paying jobs that now they have an option and they don't have to flip burgers anymore? Or legislatively, do we need to put a stop to that and say, you know what, you do need to go?
So I think it's a very complicated question, right, to be very honest. It's a really complicated, and there's no one correct answer, but there's pieces of all this. So as I said, there's this great sorting out. There were people, and there's some wonderful opportunities in hospitality, okay? But there are a lot of people who were in the hospitality sector who maybe have said, this is my opportunity to do something different that has perhaps another opportunity, a greater opportunity for more wealth accumulation and perhaps advancement in my life. And there are businesses that have open job specs, but these require some technical skills, or they require more than just a high school diploma. And so, Kerwin, the challenge is, how do you take people from where they are to where they want to be? 3% of the workforce exits a high school or college every year. And we spend a lot of time talking about kids, and we should. That's our talent pipeline. But 97% of the workforce and the people that we need to upskill are already in the workforce. And it's the 25 and 35 and 45-year-olds that we need to put our eyes on, and they need to have a refresh right, in order to do something that frankly gives them greater earning potential.
So what's in the pipeline for that? I mean, I know the Department of Labor has training programs and they do a wonderful job, and we've had them on the show, but is there anything else that's coming up that deals with that issue?
Well, we were, before the pandemic, I sat in my office with then Labor Secretary Saran Cade, and we had a really good conversation about, we know that after talking to employers and talking to training providers, we needed to solve for really 2 things. And that is, if I wanted to upskill myself, there are 5-day-a-week, 8-hour-a-day training programs. But I need to, A, pay that tuition, and B, how do I quit the 2 so-so jobs that I have in order to get into a 5-day-a-week, 8-hour-a-day, 40-hour-a-week training circumstance, so that 25 weeks later I've got a certificate and I can get into the workplace and start on something that maybe has a path to greater riches. So that was the cornerstone of what is called Elevate Delaware. And this is intended to focus on the people who are in their mid-career kind of part of their life. And they're the hardest people to put our eyes on. But they can't just, if you've got a family, you've got kids, you've got a car payment, you can't just quit your jobs unless something's going to subsidize you. And I believe it's in my economic self-interest as a taxpayer to actually pay the tuition and to give you a weekly stipend if you show up all 5 days a week, 8 hours a day for that training, you complete the training program, because if you avoid hopelessness, helplessness, and you actually make more money in your life, as taxpayers, we're going to get it all back, because you're going to pay more in personal income tax.
It's definitely coming back to us.
And you avoid some of the social ills that go with being hopeless and helpless.
We're here in Middletown, Delaware, the 1861 Bourbon Bar. We're going to speak with Ashley Stratton, the proprietor. She's going to tell us why she's having trouble with employment, why she's having trouble getting food, and why she's having trouble getting bourbon in a bourbon bar. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for the invitation to 1861 here in Middletown, Delaware.
Thank you for coming.
It's not a secret. I've been here before. You know I'm fond of this place here. But I'm worried that you're worried. You're worried because there's obviously a staffing shortage, right?
Right.
So take us, I want to rewind back time just a little bit, okay? March 13th, 2020.
My birthday.
That's your birthday. Okay, so you remember it vividly.
Yeah, very vividly.
Tell us a little bit about it here at 1861.
Well, I was in Mexico celebrating my 30th birthday.
Okay.
We got a phone call from our bartender saying that we had to close the restaurant at 8:30. He didn't know what to do. We were all in a panic, especially being out of the country. We didn't know what to do, so we locked the doors. And it was a really helpless feeling. We didn't know what was happening. So when we came back, that's when we had to, switch gears and do carry out and figure out ways to keep the doors open. We were able to at least pay our bills, pay rent, keep the machine moving.
I mean, it's amazing. Almost 900,000 people have not been laid off in the United States, but have quit their restaurant, bar, or service position in the country. Have you been affected by that? By the quitting?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
We didn't lay anyone off.
Okay.
We randomly would just receive letters in the mail from unemployment.
Really?
Yeah, randomly. Staff stopped coming in. At first we understood, everyone was afraid of COVID. We were unsure of what was happening. So luckily, since we weren't, since the doors were closed and we were only doing carry out, we were able to work, me and my fiance work without needing too much staff.
Well, why do you think that's happening? Why do you think people are just quitting? You're getting some explanation. Talk to me about that.
To be blunt, I think, some people are making more money at home than they are actually physically going to work. One of the problems that we're facing right now is we're competing with corporations who can afford to pay our staff way more than what we can afford. We're just a mom and pop. We've lost a few staff members to Wawa, of all places, and Walmart, places that can afford to pay what we can't.
Now, is there also a supply chain issue?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. To compound on top of the other thing, now you have a supply chain issue as well.
Now we have a supply chain issue. So the demand is way up. And the supply doesn't match the demand. So we're busier than we've ever been with limited staff.
And that's such an interesting problem when we talked about it before. You said business is booming.
Booming.
Business is booming, and you don't have all of the amenities that you would have in a bourbon bar at your disposal, i.e. bourbon, and you do not have the necessary staffing.
Yeah.
So when you have a supply chain issue, you have a food issue, you have a staffing issue, does closing ever come into your thought pattern of how we're going to continue this?
Yes, because we're exhausted.
Right.
And it also affects our rating and our credibility if, 2 weeks go by and we don't have a liquor delivery because of the lack of truck drivers, for instance. So it does affect us. The thought of closing, we always thought we would close because, we weren't doing the numbers or we weren't popular or, the reviews were bad. But the reviews are really good and we're doing really well, but we are so tired.
Let DART do the driving. DART First State provides transportation that is clean, safe, reliable, and affordable. Plan your trip and get real-time bus information with the free DART Transit app. Scan your phone to pay your fare with the free DART Pass app. So what are you waiting for? Try transit today. Visit dartfirststate.com or call 1-800-652-DART.
Auto accident, medical negligence, work injury. Contact Team Tice, your Delaware personal injury lawyers. Leroy Tice in Wilmington, Delaware, serving and supporting the people of Delaware. Call 302-489-2400. That's 302-489-2400. Online at teamtice.com.
This message is brought to you by Newcastle County Government.
Many wonder, what is a variant? A variant is a mutation or a change in the genetic sequence of the virus. Some of our methods of treating COVID-19 become ineffective. If we were to simply get vaccinated, we could decrease the spread and the likelihood that a mutation would form in the first place. Let's get vaccinated.
When we're talking about, I don't know, you said 7 years possibly that this could be a problem for. So what would you say, because I know that the chamber educates as well as it does brings people together. What would you say to the pizza shop owner or the small business in town that is dealing with staffing issues? What advice would you give them?
Well, let me say, so there's two things I'd say. Number one, find your voice, because applying decades-old solutions, like raising the minimum wage, only accelerate this problem.
So you're against the raising of minimum wage?
Absolutely, because all it does is accelerate the problem of this disruption. I'll give you a for instance. At the State Department of Labor, the people who are on the other end of the phone or at the computer who are filling out all those unemployment insurance claims, $12.50 an hour. They make less than $15 an hour. People at Easter Seals who provide a lot of wonderful services for people who have kids or adults who need their kind of help during the day while other family members are maybe at work or doing whatever they do. They're working off grants. The grants aren't getting any bigger, and the staff now has to move from this price to that price. So how are they going to afford to do that? Businesses always figure out what to do, and it's like, if I've got 15 people, I guess I'm going to have to figure out how to do this with 12. You know, I'm going to have to pay higher wages. So all this does is accelerate, and it harms the very people that I know that those people who push the wage change, the people they want to help, this is actually backfiring, because the people who are underemployed are going to become unemployable for longer stretches of time until we get our eyes on them and we get them into training programs. So I'd rather see all the effort and money go toward training and upskilling, because that's where the future is, and get them into careers that aren't going to be automated out of existence.
So President Biden said in an address, pay them more when talking about that issue, and you just don't see that as the solution.
I don't see that as a solution. I really don't. I think that just all the facts, you know, I always tell my kids, it was Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan from New York, or somebody who said it before him, but I always say it around my kitchen table. We're all entitled to our own opinion. We are not entitled to our own set of facts.
Right.
And the facts just suggest that is an accelerant in ushering people to the door, not actually helping them. Because it also, if you do survive that wage increase and your employer keeps you, prices are going to have to go up. I'm going to have to pay more for the burger. I'm going to have to pay more for the hotel room stay. I'm going to have to pay more for everything. So do I really get ahead? No. All we're doing is delaying the inevitable. We need to get you into programs where you can get marketable skills and do things. Everything is tech. Tech is a skill set now that it's needed not just at our banks in Delaware with FinTech, but it's at our hospitals. It's at our education system. Look at how all the kids went to school last year. Business meetings. I mean, everything is technology. It's the people that sell this stuff, the people that troubleshoot it, the people that help us maintain it. It's critically important. It's on the manufacturing floor. There are people who are standing behind robotics.
Right. So how does automation play in this? I mean, you mentioned it briefly. We have a brand new Amazon site coming out, and I don't know the exact numbers of robots versus persons, but I know it's a big factor. So is that where we're going?
Look, things change is inevitable and change happens, and we know this. I mean, disruptions are more frequent, they're more dramatic. That's just, there's a Stanford professor, Tony Seba, he studies disruptions, economic disruptions, and he talks about this regularly. But the Amazon facility in here in Wilmington that's under construction is a perfect example. Here's a $380 million project. 90% of that building is being constructed by out-of-state labor because we don't have enough tradespeople in our own state, union or non-union, to actually do the job.
So they're willing to hire us.
They're absolutely willing to hire us, but for example, the construction of that building, so the people drive up, they work there all day, they put the building together, and then they drive home to Chester, they drive home to Elkton or Pennsville, and those neighborhoods improve and not Todd Estates and Newark, and that's a shame.
That is.
We need more tradespeople because the state's about to get $1 billion or more dollars to invest in infrastructure around the state. And it would be, frankly, political malpractice not to have contracts to do all that work
From labor
right here in the state.
I can't agree with you more on that state. I mean, on that issue there. I think it's very important. But to your point again, we need to make sure that we have the trained people in order to facilitate that labor and get out of this stigma that you're only successful if you graduate from a four-year college or university. So I can guarantee you that the HVAC mechanics that are out there are making a heck of a lot more money than people think they are. I know that for a fact.
Well, I have a member in Newark in particular, and they take young men and women out of the Newcastle Adult Vocational Skill Center in the city where I live, Newcastle. They bring them on. They start them at about $17, $18 an hour, full benefits, entry-level welders. They skill them up even beyond that. And by the time these people are, if they started at 18 years old, by the time they're 23, with overtime, they're making six figures. And they don't have any of the share of the $1.5 trillion of student loan debt in this country. And the fact is, since 2011 to 2029, Kerwin, the baby boom generation, of which I'm a member, we're losing 10,000 people a day to retirement. And I'm from the generation where 40 years ago, it was go to college, go to college, go to college. If you went to trade school, that was not the path to riches and wealth. And it made a lot of sense. And there's still value today, huge value in a college or university education. But we've spent 40 years robbing ourselves of replenishing people in the building trades. And we got to do that. We got to do that different. And frankly, we have to open it up to women. We have to open it up to minorities, because there's very few people in those industries that no one can say that they're diverse.
I think I may have sidetracked you when I was speaking of, I guess, guidance that you could give to the small business owner. Before we leave, I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to address that.
So I think they have no choice, but they're going to have to automate and raise their prices. I really just don't think they have any choices. I'm going to have to pay more for my pizza, because they're going to have to. I mean, they have to comply with the law or the regulations. So if the law says you have to pay this person a certain amount of money to answer the phone and take the orders, or I'm going to have to automate all that. And there's some places that sell pizzas that already do that. You can order it through an app or online, and you might force the independents to do similarly. They're going to figure it out. Businesses always figure it out, but it comes at the expense of the lowest skilled participants in the labor force.
So you have the ears of your state assembly person. You have the ears of your state senator, your U.S. senator right now, the governor. All who have been on this show, all who watch this show, what would you tell them as far as what is your cry for help to them that's something that they could help you with?
Just to think about the little guys, think about the small business owners. We're just as important as the larger corporations, if not more important. We are what makes Middletown what Middletown is. All of us small business owners, we matter.
Minimum wage. You made it very clear to me in previous conversations that minimum wage is detrimental to your business. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, typically when minimum wage goes up, it's $1.50. To go from $10 for minimum wage to $15 is aggressive. It would mean that I would have to raise my menu items to astronomical prices. We would have to charge, as opposed to charging $13 for wings, we would probably have to charge $16 to $18 for wings just to pay for our dishwasher. it just, I understand why people want to see an increase in minimum wage, but I also feel like it would kill the small business, just because we can't afford to do it in a month.
Right. Well, hopefully they're going to gradually, it'll be in increments, so it won't hit you all at once. But what is your Band-Aid right now that you're doing to deal with the financial aspect of things, the pineapple juice issues, the staffing issues? In order to do that, you're putting some type of, I don't know, bandage on it to make it through the week. So you're probably taking it 1 week or 1 day at a time. What are some of those things that you're doing?
We're taking a hit. We're cutting the amount of money that we bring home in order to afford, more workers and in order to compete, to keep the machine running. We're raising menu prices. We are considering opening on days that we're typically closed, but we are afraid to do that because of exhaustion. There are just a few of us working here. Right. So we're just doing the best that we can. We just keep on moving. That's all that we can do at this.
If you had a magic crystal ball, what do you need right now in this restaurant? We know you need pineapple juice. What else do you need?
We need kitchen help. Our front of the house, often people come and they see, we have lots of servers and bartenders, but it's not hard to find servers and bartenders. They're always willing to work. It's kitchen help. We need help on the line cooking. We need help washing dishes. We need help prepping. And
you have those positions readily available right now. So if somebody were to walk in, I mean, it's that bad or that critical. If somebody were to walk in and say that I am capable of working in the kitchen, I am capable of dishwashing, whether it be a teenager or someone else that's interested in that position, you could hire them right on the spot?
I could.
Wow.
I would.
Well, there we have it. We have a lot of questions, we have a lot of problems, but we don't have a lot of solutions. Where does Ashley go from here? Is this a legislative issue, or is this an issue we can deal with ourselves? Everything from labor shortages to knowledge shortages to bourbon shortages. I look forward to seeing you next week on the agenda.